Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Hello and welcome all you friends, your neighbors, family, all you citizens of the world. I'm Michael James here in Chicago, and we're bringing you another edition of the Live from the Heartland show. We've also been calling it Heartland at Home since the beginning of the pandemic. And this would be number 124 since we began doing this during the pandemic via Zoom. This week, we are recording for our October 29th show. We are doing it on Wednesday, the 26th, so we may not have the most up-to-date news, but we do have some information that I think you're going to find good. We're going to have three guests today. A little bit, we're going to bring on Katy Hogan, a sometimes co-host and producer who's off doing electoral work. We're going to have Win Noll, and she has a band called the Rockin Souls. We're going to talk with her. And then we're going to go to an old friend, Larry Suffredin, who's been on the Cook County board for the last 20 years. He is retiring, and we're going to check in with him about some things that are on the ballot. So let's get started. As many of you who listen regularly know, we like to talk about some good things that happened to us. And I had the honor of once again teaching my class at DePaul called Activists and Activism Since 1960. And this last Thursday, we brought in two very good friends, Mary Driscoll and Katy Hogan. And they both talked about the movie Jane, which was about the underground abortion network here in Chicago. There's a new documentary and also a film out, feature film about it, but the original is really good. And it was great to hear both of them, who have been very influential in my life, talking about women, talking about the role of, I was going to say men, but I meant to say that in terms of support, talking about voting, the elections coming up, and they're always inspirational. And I would recommend that movie very highly, Jane, if you can find it. Around the world, we've got a lot of issues, a lot of things going on. We try to touch on things regularly. What caught my attention in the last couple of days was the bombing of a rally or a performance in Myanmar. A very popular Burmese singer named Orali Lapai, that's Lahpai, was performing on stage in northern Myanmar on Sunday evening when three military jets flew overhead and bombed the outdoor concert. One bomb struck near the main stage, witnesses said, killing Mr. Arali and several other performers in the middle of a song. At least 80 people were killed in the attack, according to emergency workers. The airstrike targeted the territory of ethnic Kachin rebels. It was the deadliest aerial attack mounted by Myanmar's military regime since it seized power in a coup last year. It has prompted renewed calls for a global arms embargo against the junta, as well as tougher banking sanctions and a ban on aviation fuel sales. I think anywhere that we give some kind of military support and people are not acting in the interests of the broader community, we should cut off all kind of aid. Let me see, what else do I have? On the Supreme Court, we called to your attention that Justice Thomas, whose wife has been before the January 6th committee, he postponed Senator Lindsey Graham's required attendance of the trial, the court, the hearing, the grand jury in Atlanta. And that was pretty interesting to me that we'll have to wait and see what the entire court does. Also on the Supreme Court, the Alito, who is another of the conservative justices, it was revealed that he had assured Senator Kennedy back in the day that even though he had been critical of Roe versus Wade, it was standing, it was set, and he wasn't going to mess with it. Well, a number of years later, he was one of the people who did. So there has clearly been a politicization of the Supreme Court. It's not in the interest of the majority of the people. Used to be we could count on the Supreme Court to come up with some good decisions, even if they weren't all the people we liked on it. But it hasn't been good lately. All right. Last week, I'm going to call your attention to the two guests that we had. Pat Hanlon came on, and she talked about the Dakota Access Pipeline, and closer to home, the Enbridge Pipeline that they're up in the Mackinac Straits, and the pipelines run under Lake Michigan, and just the ongoing danger of these pipelines. It's an ongoing issue, and our attention and action on it is fundamental to the future of the species. On the sports front, really sorry to hear yesterday, that would have been Tuesday, in Russia, the court did not grant any leniency to Lonnie Grenier, the American basketball player who has been incarcerated over there because she had in her possession some like marijuana, liquid marijuana. I'm not sure what the form was. And we're just waiting to see if Biden can make a deal and get her home. On the sports front also, this Friday, which will be the day after many of you listen to the show, the World Series will begin. It's Philadelphia versus the Houston Astros. And along with colder weather, the Bears seem to be getting better. They had a good victory on Monday night. The Blackhawks have had a run of victories, and the Bulls knocked off Boston on Monday night. So things are looking good. Here in Rogers Park, the good news we got was 100 new housing units of development by the group Housing for All is proposing a $30 million 6-story complex of 110 units. And that would be up on Howard Street near Paulina. This is reported by Block Club Chicago. The development will replace a strip mall, retail and storage facility at the intersection of West Howard and Paulina. It's across from the Red Line, and the plan would revitalize the neighborhood. Has been plagued by violence and disinvestment. They plan for 16 studio apartments, 24 one-bedroom, 42 two-bedroom, and 28 three-bedroom units. 88 will be reserved for households that make 60% or less of the area median income. It goes on with some more details. That's a good thing. We need more housing everywhere in the country. And on a sad note, I learned this morning, I learned it last night, that Mike Davis, a longtime writer, academic, historian, and former Los Angeles STS, Students for Democratic Society fellow, he has passed away in San Diego on Tuesday. And I remember Mike most when he visited Berkeley in probably the fall of '64 or winter of '65. And he's the guy that signed me up in STS, Students for Democratic Society, and my life has never been the same. Mike was quite a guy, and I'm going to read one quote. Dickie Magdoff, also an SDS guy, said that Mike was one of our more astute commentators, best writers, and compassionate souls. He had a bestseller, as reported by NPR back in 1990, called City of Quartz, which LA columnist Carolina Miranda described in her obituary for Mike as, quote, almost irrationally ambitious. The book contained a kitchen sink's worth of subject matter covering the design of corporate superblocks, cul-de-sac, NIMBYism, and that's not in my backyard, and the ongoing face-off between the cultures of boosterism and noir, buttressed by copious footnotes and references to Marxist theorists such as Antonio Gramsci and Herbert Marcuse. Dee Gordon, also an SDS SNCC guy, said some wonderful things about Mike. And it made me think a lot that for those of us who are getting older, we think about visiting with our friends, and we can't put these things off. When you get older, you never know when it's going to happen. So my plans are to travel more. I say that a lot, but we'll see if I do it this winter. And with that said, we would normally go and start talking about the elections, But I'm going to hold off and do that with Katy Hogan, who is joining us in just a minute. We're going to take a short musical break, and we'll be right back with Katy Hogan talking about the upcoming election and more live from the Heartland. Stay tuned here on the left end of your dial. Hey, we're back. We're back here on the left end of your dial, or however you get this show. We're here with more live from the Heartland. And I know a number of you have been missing Katy Hogan. So I spotted her recently and asked if she would come on the show to make everyone happy. Plus, she has a lot of information about the election that is coming up very soon. So good morning to you, Katy, or it's actually afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Katy Hogan.
Hello, Michael. Nice to be here. And I'm happy to give the election update. Less than 2 weeks to go to in one of the most significant midterm elections I've ever seen. A lot of people say it's the most significant yet. And I know that folks who maybe are just on the edges of paying attention think they always say that. And for the last 10 years or 8 years, we definitely have said that a lot. But it's actually more true this particular election than ever. It's more true nationwide when you look at the span of races across the country. But I'll start with Illinois because that's my job. Right now in Illinois, and just for those who are listening, this is baldly partisan. All we want you to vote for is Democrats from the top to the bottom of the ticket. I know you're going to have Larry Suffredin on later. He can talk about the ballot, but there's a couple things on our ballot that everyone's going to see in the city. One is some kind of referenda, get the right word from Larry, on the forest preserve. And it's about raising some more, keeping the subsidy that the forest preserve has enjoyed for a bit, and that Larry Suffredin was very active in getting passed and also in paying attention to. And it's actually running along the side of your ballot on a right-hand column. I haven't seen it yet, but that's what I'm told it is. Also on the ballot, in addition to all the races, is the Workers' Rights Amendment, which is basically about giving workers, strengthening workers' rights to organize and what's that called?
Well, Illinois is not a right to work state, but we still need guarantees because we never know what's going to happen. So this would right. Enshrine in the Constitution the right to organize.
Right, and exactly.
I think it's at the top of the ballot.
I think you're right. I think it's the first thing. Also on the ballot in some places in Illinois are two different Supreme Court races, Supreme Court justice races. That's in District 2 and 3, which do not encompass the city of Chicago, but just west of us in DuPage and Lake and others. If you have Elizabeth Rochford on your ballot or Mary Kay O'Brien on your ballot, those are the people you should vote for. And we need that because of what you just said in order to codify certain things and strengthen them in Illinois, like protecting women's right to choose and reproductive rights in general. We need to make sure that we don't get a state Supreme Court that looks like some of these kangaroo courts around the country.
Even like the big time Supreme Court.
Well, the big one is, half of them are absolute kangaroo candidates. I'm thinking of Clarence Thomas and Kavanaugh and what's her face. Anyway, at this point in time, with less than 2 weeks to go, and a lot of races we're being told that a lot of races are tightening up. And we do know that election night is going to be a long one across the country. Here in Illinois, again, we're pretty good. We have one actual possible gain for the Congress, and that is Nikki Budzinski down in the 13th district, which encompasses Champaign-Urbana and a kind of a strange little swath across the middle of the state. But if you wanted to work or call for Nikki Baczynski, she's a good one to go for. The other is the race that is the newly differently drawn 17th district out in Rockford and the west of the state. And that's Eric Sorensen, who is running to reoccupy the seat that Sherry Bustos vacated. They're both looking pretty hopeful, but because they're new names on the ballot, those are the ones that we're doing phone banking for and have also done some canvassing for. This particular weekend, when this show airs, we will be riding out to Rockford to knock doors for Eric Sorensen. The following day, Sunday, is a really good day to go to Wisconsin for Mandela Barnes and Evers, the sitting governor. Wisconsin is really, really important. If you had only one day to canvass in the next 2 weeks, I would go to Wisconsin. I would go to Milwaukee and knock doors. Let me
ask you while you're going along, how do people hook up with this? Give them either your number or
okay.
I'm
going to give you two different sites just to keep it simple. Ours is all listed on mobilize.us along with everyone else's actions. And you can call me anytime to get hooked up with our ongoing phone banks and whatever canvases we pick up in these final days. And I'm at the 48th Ward Democratic Office. You can see I'm sitting in front of a very fancy state of Illinois seal. That's Carol.
I can see half of it.
And Carol Ronan's big fancy chair I'm sitting in. I'm normally out in the front, but I came here for quiet. So once again, okay. So a couple good sites, very easy to get onto. Actually, I am mentioning three. Indivisible.com, Indivisible in any version, has incredibly ongoing good canvas, phone bank, and other possibilities. And I'm giving you these three because these are ones that you can go to either Wisconsin or Michigan to canvas. And I personally feel, and I think there is research that says knocking on people's doors and talking to them on their front porch is the number one way to make effective voter contact. Phone banking is the second. A lot of people don't want to do either of those as a result of not having ever done it before and being afraid. I've had to really dig to get people to understand it's very satisfying as well as effective to walk these canvases. Unlike when we all started in politics, you don't go door to door to door. You've got now intelligence gathered that says these are the 5 leaning Democratic households on this block that don't always reliably vote, and those are the doors we're knocking on. So Michigan and Wisconsin are both crucial, but I would say Wisconsin right now for Mandela Barnes, because we want that Senate seat. The guy who occupies it is, I can't talk about it online. I mean, on the radio, I would tend to cuss. So swingleft.org, that's swingleft.org. They have a Saturday, November 5th canvas to Milwaukee, and that's a good group. MoveOn.org is, another great group that has a whole series of possible ways to hook up, and Indivisible, which I already mentioned. Phoning, canvassing, and texting is now kind of what's left to do. We had a huge postcard effort here in Illinois.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I heard something about 5,000 postcards got sent out of the 49th Ward.
Actually, closer to 10,000 got sent out.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, it is.
I know
great.
my wife was getting a hand cramp over here writing postcards.
Yeah, that you have to take them a few at a time. I also
and I got my pen back from her, and I think you still have my other pen, Kate.
Michael.
Okay. Keep going.
There's one race I want to mention that's real close to us down in Hammond, Indiana, and that's Frank Mervan for Congress, MRVAN. And if anybody knows about him, he's a great candidate Indiana is a state that needs another Democrat coming from it. And if anyone's inclined, check out Frank Mervan for Congress. A number of those groups I just mentioned will list canvases to him on his behalf as well. Let's see. Nationwide, of course. Go ahead, Michael.
Let me ask you a question before you go. We talk nationwide. Some people may just be in a position to give money right now. And,
Right.
I'm not sure how they should do that. Go to just pick candidates out, or is there one place that can go that really tells you this is who could use the money right now, and here's how you do it?
Okay. Indivisible and Move On are both places that have collected or grouped together things like vote for these Democratic candidates for governor, or vote for these Democratic candidates for Senate. Senate is really important that we maintain and gain a couple seats in Senate. Governor is very important. We see that Beto O'Rourke, our favorite guy who was on this show with us last year, his race is tightening, which means he's getting he's surging a bit. And so I would send money to Beto. I also think Val Demings in Florida, nothing would make my heart sing more than to see Marco Rubio go bye-bye. There's a gal named Sherry Beasley in North Carolina. She's running for Senate. She's also surging a bit. Let's see. Mark Kelly is in my inbox more than almost any other candidate. I don't know how
Arizona.
scary it is. I don't know how scary close that is, but the fact of hearing about armed flipping gunmen at the early voting sites in Arizona, they should just be locked up for the duration. They should be put in jail until after Election Day. I'm sorry, but that's a sin against democracy. I'm sorry. It's, you know what it is. It's baloney. So there are groupings that you can put money into. The last time I did this roundup about elections, I also mentioned Brian Derrick, who has been very useful bundling legislative races across the country, which are completely meant to occupy those seats that actually do the vote counting, and they need support. And those are places. I don't have a lot of money in my life, but I added up my Act Blue donations the other day, and I'm closing in on 10% of my income for this year alone. And I don't mind. This is worth it. I want to overturn Citizens United after this election. Citizens United, of course, is the Supreme Court ruling that basically said corporations are people and you don't have to disclose where all of your millions of dollars come from. What is actively working against democracy in this midterm is millions and millions, even billions now, billions of dollars, some call it dark money, to the Republican cause and to the cause of setting up some kind of shenanigans, serious shenanigans, too serious to be called shenanigans, really, vis-a-vis the 24 presidential election. And if you don't want to see Trump back in our lives, this is an election to get active in whatever way possible, because those people are serious about seeing him again. Those people want him back. And when you see armed gunmen at polling places, I'm not sure that looks like the U.S. anymore. And it's serious. So go ahead.
Let's shift a little bit to the kind of, I know we were talking recently about watching the news and what you get out of the news. I sense a kind of a trend in both the mainstream media on TV, as well as, say, the New York Times, where they are running a lot of stories about Republicans moving forward a little bit, Democrats not quite as sure or worried. It seems like they're just trying to, it could be right, but it seems like they're just trying to come up with stuff to talk about, to scare people. And I don't know how they could measure people. I don't know how people could poll. they're not polling the young people with their phones.
That's an excellent point. We don't know how these pollings, half of them, where the numbers are coming from, and they are really disturbing for those of us who care about the republic, because they yank you around every single day. I do not watch. I don't get on my TV the big news. Cable news outlets. I regret that in some cases, but I'm really glad for it in others. I get my news from PBS, locally, WTTW in Chicago Tonight. When they cover our local races, they had a great thing on last night with Kwame Raoul, who's running to defend his Secretary of State seat. Secretary of State is ultimately in each state the person who vouchsafes the elections. And so that's a really important seat. And they did a really good job last night with him and his opponent, who actually spoke more reasonably than some of the Republican opponents who should. I mean, I don't understand why anybody should be saying that they'd vote for Herschel Walker. I don't understand why anybody would be saying they're voting for Oz, Dr. Oz. Excuse me. I mean, really, we deserve better, America. What?
Katie, one thing about the voting is striking me is how many people are voting by mail. I mean, the word out there is that more than ever, I think more than last time, people are already turning in mail ballots, and that we hope that's good for the Democrats. We could be fooled, but Republicans initiated the vote by mail way back. Now they try to peel it back. They don't like it because it doesn't work in their interest usually.
That's right. There is a big surge compared to the last midterm and even the presidential in 2020 numbers in both Georgia, which needs it, Florida, which also needs it. Those are the two states I can remember right off. Maybe Pennsylvania as well. And that should be, crossing fingers, good news for Democrats. And I'm sorry, I'm not usually so baldly partisan. I'm open to not being partisan. I wish I could, say, check out the independent or the green in this race, but I can't. Everybody should vote Democratic to save the nation, to regroup our rights, to protect voters' rights, to pay attention to environmental emergencies.
In the Pennsylvania race, where it's Fetterman who had a stroke and was in a debate the other night, and he's having a little rough time with his abilities, but he's coming back, on the mend. And in that race against the carpetbagger from New Jersey, the TV guy named Oz, endorsed by the former Trump guy, the independent candidate dropped out this week and endorsed Fetterman.
Good.
So that could be helpful.
Good.
We're going to run out of time, Katy Hogan. And you got any last little parting shot you want to share?
Voting is our superpower as citizens in the U.S., which still, despite all of our lacks across systems, is still one of the best places in the world to be honored enough to have been born in. And if we want to stand up and say thank you for that right, we must vote. And never has that been more true. So the thing that everyone should do is make sure that they organize the people around them. If everyone contacted and made sure 3 people that they know and love actually vote, we'd be in good shape.
Well,
seriously.
Hopefully they do that. And I want to thank you for joining us. You look good in that big chair with the state of Illinois seal behind you. And we love that purple beret.
It was a bad hair day, so that's why the beret is still on.
It looks good. Okay, you are listening to the Live from the Heartland show. You may be watching it, depends how you get it. But we'll be right back in a minute with our next guest, who I believe will be Win Noll. And she has a band called the Rockin Souls. And I was really impressed with her music, and I'm glad Lynn Orman lined her up. So we'll be right back. We'll take a short musical break. Stay tuned here on the left end of your dial. back with more Live from the Heartland, and we've had a lot of politics so far today. We'll probably have a little bit more when Larry Suffredin comes on. But right now, I'm really honored to bring on someone who I've never met before, but I'm really impressed with her music. I'm talking about Win Noll, and Win Noll and the Rockin Souls are an original, fresh, and unmanufactured band with your unique identity, unparalleled sound. They're a six-piece band. They command our attention, leaving the audience wanting more. And I got to say, when I listened to one of your tunes, that's how I felt. So good morning to you, Win, or good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Thank you for having me today.
Well, we're glad to have you, and I'm really glad Linda Orman turned me on to you. How about you start off telling us a little bit about yourself? Where do you come from? Where did you grow up? What do you do? How'd you end up being in the music world?
I'm a Chi-Town girl, and I started off in theater and made a transition about 6 years ago. Met the very first Rockin Souls, Stephen Bass. We went on to meet Minoru and Shoji and Wabi and Mike Flynn, and that is the sum right now of Win Noll and the Rockin Souls.
And how long have you been playing together? You said it already, but
We've been playing together, I would say every member now, over 4 years.
well, you mentioned theater. So what did you do in the theater world? I happen to be in some movies now and then, and I have a daughter who teaches in theater department at DePaul, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm a little interested in the theater part too.
Well, I studied at Northeastern with Dr. Ron Combs for a long time. I spent a lot of time in pursuit, tons of school productions, tons of auditions, and some professional roles in semi, and had a really great time. But I was always writing my own music, realizing that there's something else for me to do. I have a calling that extends beyond theater, and I'm so happy that I followed that inner voice.
That's good. That's good. I like the music. I like the theater. It all goes together. Who knows?
Yeah.
You'll probably do a rock opera someday.
I would love that.
So tell us a little bit about your music. I mean, what I heard was a blues tune. Let's hear a little bit of what you think your music's about.
Well, I think our music is about really honoring the legends right now, really bringing forth originals. For me, I didn't grow up hearing a lot of this music. So honestly, I heard some things as recent as 5 years ago. And when I did, I was so inspired. I thought, my God, I have to do that. I was almost inhabited. I have to recreate these songs and do them. And I think that the band felt exactly the same way, because it was hearing something new. It was so fresh to me. And I was so excited. And I just thought, how in the world could this Bo Diddley beat be out here and I not know about it? I have to do that song. And that's how I felt about so many of these. And so we did them along with our originals. And we have our first CD out right now. I was compelled. I love this music so much. So that's, I had to bring it forth from a female's point of view as well. I noticed, there weren't a lot of women doing this music. So
you're talking blues, rock and roll, yeah.
Yes.
I got to share with you that my very first, concert I went to was in 1956 in my hometown in Connecticut with Bo Diddley. And I had a bottle of apple cider that had turned, and it was the first time I got drunk, and I got drunk with Jerome, the maraca player.
Yes.
And there's more to the story, but that was all that happened then. Bo Diddley is great. Tell us a little bit about the band itself, the Rockin Souls. It looked to me like almost everyone in the band was of Asian origins, maybe or maybe not, but it was an interesting looking group of blues guys.
It's an interesting look of blues guys, isn't it? And it speaks to the power of the blues and how it transcends, as it should, like every other music transcends, right? We don't have to stay within the origin. We hope that everyone will participate and love it, but we do have 3 Japanese members. We also have 2 members from the Eddie Clearwater Band. So,
great.
That's a thrill for us because we honor Eddie as well. He is a legend and we play his music. So yeah.
No, that's good. I tell you what, I think we're gonna play one of your tunes right now, and we'll probably, if we don't have video to go with it, we'll put some pictures of you over it. But Hal, why don't you plan on, he's our engineer, doing about a minute or so of what tune do you think we should play for you?
Oh, wow. Well, let's see. We have our original Drinking Buddy. We've got A Whole Love. We've got I'd Rather Go Blind, and That's All Right. I'm going to let you make a choice there.
Okay, we'll do it. So we're going to take a short break and hear a little bit of Win Noll and the Rockin Souls music, and we'll be right back and ask her a few more questions.
Okay, I'll be here. I'll be here.
Me too. That was really nice. That was really nice. And you were just saying, Win Noll, before we went to the musical break, that you have a CD out. How about telling us the name of the CD? And I guess we can get it online or maybe a music store.
Yes, voila, here you go. It is Win Noll and the Rockin Souls. Bam. And look at that. You can even open it and see our performances. And we feel fantastic about this. I would shelf it if I didn't. I'm a perfectionist, and we feel great about it. So check us out. We'll be at the Epiphany Center this Friday. So that's a great opportunity to come and hear the music from us.
Well, that'll actually be the day after this airs. Although if some people go to youtube.com/Heartland Media on Friday night,
okay,
they'll probably find it. But I understand you have some dates coming up after this.
We do, November 12th and November 13th. On the 12th, we're at Johnny's Blitz in Westmont. And that's, oh my gosh, they make such an effort to support the blues. So come on out there. That's from 8 to 12. More exciting, I got to say, only because it's a competition. We've advanced in the Windy City Blues Challenge. And that is November 13th at Buddy Guy's. So you got to come on out and support us there. Because we're going for it. We're laying it down. We're throwing it down. We're going to have a fantastic night. All of the artists are fantastic. So you can't go wrong coming to that show.
November 13th. That's good. Didn't you have something going on November 4th too, did I see?
We do. It's Blues and Brews. It's in Highland Park. It's in the lot here. So we're on actually at a 5:30 time slot, I think, 5 o'clock. So
you have a website?
We do have a website that is under construction, but everything is on Facebook right now. And I am amping up all social media platforms and websites now.
So is that Win Noll and the Rockin Souls on Facebook, or just Win Noll?
Just type in Win Noll and you will get there.
Oh, great. Well, we have lofty expectations for humanity and certainly lofty hopes. How about telling us a little bit about your hopes for your band, your own aspirations, and then I'll ask you a little bit more about that.
My hope for my band that we continue to go and write music and we put out original music because it's really special. This is a really special group of people. We've got something fantastic to offer. And I think it's just meant to be. I feel that our music is meant to be. I think there's an audience, and our level of appreciation, we really respect the music and love it. And we have zero drama. All we care about is a love of music, writing our stuff and getting it out there. And we love to perform live. So I just feel that, let's decline that one. Are you there?
Yeah, we're still here. I know somebody was trying to get a hold of you. I have people calling me all during this time. You have to turn these phones off.
Yes, turn them off. So I believe in this. I believe in this band with my whole heart, and I think you'll feel the same way.
Well, I got to say, I was really impressed with what I watched, and we're going to be listening. I'm going to go get that CD, and
Okay.
We're going to play a little bit more, another one of your tunes now, before we have our next guest, who will be Larry Suffredin. So, Win Noll and the Rockin Souls, I wish you well. I'm really honored to have had you on the show, because I know it's going to be a very popular interview, and you're going to become quite a popular band. And we hope to come see you on so soon. You know, if it's not the last night when the show is aired, or coming up, we're going to come check you out.
Okay, I'll remind you now that we know each other.
You got my email.
I've got your email.
Okay, you're the best. Thank you all for listening to Live from the Heartland so far. We're going to be right back. We're going to hear a little bit of Win Noll and the Rockin Souls, and we're coming back with Larry Suffredin, who is retiring from the Cook County Board, and he's got a lot to share. So be right back here on the left end of your dial. Don't go far away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give you my love. I gotta give you my love. I wanna give you my love. It's all my love, man.
We're back again with our final segment for this edition of the Live from the Heartland show. This is number 124 for the week of October 29th. And I'm really glad to bring on someone who's always come on the show when we needed him, who's always shared some great information, and he's got some new news to share. The one, the only, the esteemed, the incomparable Larry Suffredin. Good morning to you, Larry. Good afternoon to you, Larry.
Yeah, Michael, how are you? It's good to be with you. And it's been a pleasure all these years to be here, even when we were live from the Heartland and able to shake hands and all.
Yeah, that was good. We used to do it from the stage at the Heartland, and we did it a couple of times from the Red Line Tap, and then we did it downtown at the WLUW studios. And I got to say that by going Zoom and doing it Heartland at home really opened it up. We've had people from Brazil, we've had Beto O'Rourke from El Paso, and now we got Larry Suffredin parked in a car along the side of some Illinois highway. He's coming back from a memorial, a funeral for indigenous, not indigenous.
No.
No. For what is the word? Indigent
people. So I'm stopped on Western. I'm stopped on Western Boulevard at about 54th Street. I just came from Mount Olivet Cemetery on 111th in the Beverly neighborhood, where every quarter we bury the people, the indigent people who, either their families have no ability to bury them, or that we've been unable to find their families. And so we buried 202 people today. They did in the time we've been doing this, since I've been on the board, this was our 4,000th burial of people. And we have a nice stone at the Mount Olivet Cemetery, which is one of the oldest Catholic cemeteries in the county, opened in 1885. Interestingly enough, my mother and father, my grandparents, and my great-grandparents are all buried there. The first one of them was buried 1 year after the cemetery opened. It's a very moving ceremony. I was there with President Preckwinkle. Commissioner Daley and I have tried to make all of these, and unfortunately he couldn't do it today. But as a county, it's something we do right, and we give respect to these people who are part of our communities who have died.
Well, that's good to hear that is going on. And Larry, you've been doing this now every year. You haven't missed one at all. You've been at the 13th district rep of the Cook County Board of Commissioners for now 20 years.
20 years, yes.
And one of the reasons I asked, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Yep.
One of the reasons I invited you on was because I know that there are, you are leaving the county board, so we'll hear a little bit more about that. But first of all, share with our listeners and our viewers what's going on the ballot that relates to the forest preserve that people should take note of and pay attention to.
So I have, for the last 8 years, been trying to get a referendum on the ballot that would allow for a small property tax increase for the Forest Preserve District. And I finally succeeded for this election cycle. The Forest Preserve, unlike the county, is a non-home rule unit of government. It's very much like a small village. And it only can raise money from property taxes and fees like picnic permit fees or canoe rental fees, those kind of things. And we need additional funds to be able to take care of the land we have and to keep acquiring land. You know, the forest preserves are a little over 100 years old. 100 years ago, people said we need to protect this land to give the community places to go to recreate, but also we found that they hold stormwater, they help us with our carbon footprint. These forest preserves are the second most important natural resource we have in the area after Lake Michigan. And so we have a request for a small $41 million annual increase for the average homeowner. It's about $1.25 a month extra that they would pay on their property taxes to make sure that we keep this forest preserve strong. In 100 years from now, there'll be people like us talking about what they're doing to strengthen it for the third 100-year period.
Well, I think this is a good thing. And what is the status of our forest preserves? Because when you fly into Chicago, I am always impressed by the beautiful ring of green that surrounds the city and it runs throughout the county. I mean, it's a big operation. There's a lot of land, a lot of green space. We obviously need a lot more green space. Tell us a little bit about it.
So we have 70,000 acres. We're entitled to have up to 72,000 acres. That green tree, that the circle that you've described, we call the emerald necklace of Chicago. No other urban city in the world has this much preserved land close to the heart of a major city. And when I got on the board 20 years ago, one of the things I ran for was because the forest preserve was being mistreated. Today, with Arnold Randall as the superintendent, and through the leadership of Tony Preckwinkle, who I give a lot of credit for this, we have a very well-functioning forest preserve. We have a conservation policy council that we put together that is made up of experts in the environment who are working and giving us ideas and plans for how to make our land better. And we've been able to really turn the corner. I think the pandemic had us have a huge increase in people who went out and used the forest preserves. And I think what they learned is that these forest preserves are not what they remember as from being a kid. These are forest preserves that are truly the gyms they're supposed to be, places to hike, to ride your bike, get a canoe, have a picnic. And so I'm hopeful that people will vote yes on this referendum.
Well, you got at least one vote here. I'll tell you that, Larry. All right. Now, one of the things, besides the Forest Preserve, there is the whole Cook County Board of, what do you call it? The Cook County
Board of Commissioners?
Board of Commissioners. That's what happens as you get older. And you've been on that board for 20 years and you are retiring. Tell us a little bit about the scope of the board and why you decided to retire, because you're one of the best people on the board.
Well, I decided to retire because I'm 75 years old and I didn't want to run for an office that would take me to my 79th birthday. I want to do some other things with my life. But more importantly, this was the right time to transfer some of the leadership on this board to the younger generations. And the person running to replace me is a young woman named Josina Marita, who for the last 6 years has been a commissioner of the Water Reclamation District. And she has done a remarkable job there. She's a strong environmentalist. And I think that she will bring great leadership to the Cook County Board. There are 4 of us who are not coming back. in the next board. There's been turnover every 2 years. 4 years ago, I'm sorry, every 4 years. 4 years ago, there were 7 new people. So we're at a sea change. And, the board runs the largest hospital system owned by a local unit of government, the Cook County Health and Hospital System, runs the largest court system. The Cook County Circuit Court has the largest single site jail, the largest forest preserve system. I mean, we're responsible for the budget and the maintaining of all of those major things. Plus, we have the assessor's office, the board of review to make sure your taxes are fairly assessed and that if they're collected by our treasurer, our county clerk has your birth certificate, your death certificate, your marriage license, all of those things. So it is a government that is kind of stealth. People don't think of it because we don't pick up your garbage. We do have a highway system. There are a lot of county highways, and people are always stunned when they find out, oh, that's a county highway. Ashland Avenue, by the way, go through the 49th and 50th Ward, is a county highway. But so I think that we're at a sea change. It's a point where Toni Preckwinkle has said this will be her last term. I think we've got a lot of younger commissioners, and I think you're going to see a number of them 4 years from now running for president.
Larry Suffredin, we have in our city council, we have some real progressives, and that's a part of the council that's grown. We have some more conservative elements. What's the makeup of the county board? And would you say with the 4 people retiring and new people coming in, what's your likely projection about, will it move a little bit more to the left, a little more to the right, stay the same?
Well, one of the changes will be based upon the way I see the elections, there will be 7 women in the next county board. There are only 5 in the current county board. Women always bring a better perspective, I think, and help us get to a more centrist role on solving problems and not going to the extremes. But this board has not been divided by ideology. It's been motivated by providing service to people. And what you see in the court system, what you see in the healthcare system, has been a consensus building. So even if there's only one Republican on the next county board, I don't think that that's a good or a bad thing. It's just a thing. That's how they got elected.
Yeah.
The people work together, and frankly, this probably should be a nonpartisan office like the city council in Chicago is, but it's not. And we run in a different cycle. But at this point, you look at the people who've been on the board. In Congress, we have Danny Davis, we have Mike Quigley, we have Chuy Garcia. I mean, there's 3 different people who are all allies in the Congress. They were allies on the county board. And at this point, John Daly will be the senior member, and he's the most remarkable member. He's been there longer than I have, and he has shown great leadership, and he is so patient working with the other members of this board. I think that you're going to see a lot of really good things come out of the next board.
Well, that'll be great. Now, Larry, before we started this little interview, you did talk about the Ukraine a bit and wanted to share a couple of things. How about you do that now?
Well, Michael, one of the things that we need to remember is that we are part of the world community. And we have been doing everything we can as a county to welcome asylum seekers, to welcome people who are coming from ravaged, war-torn areas. And the people of the Ukraine are symbolic of the people we've been trying to help here in Cook County. And I just want to remind people that our government is a compassionate government, and that we want to be able to assist people, and that's really the motto of this government. So when I mentioned Ukraine, our friend Mike Quigley is one of the leaders of the Ukrainian caucus in the Congress, and he has been spending hours and hours working to try to help the president come up with solutions to this war. And again, our county government is not separated from that. We are part of the world community. Can I leave with one last thing, Michael, on the election?
You certainly can.
We have a retention ballot for judges. and it's at the end of the ballot. And while we are seeing all these TV ads for the Supreme Court races in Lake County and DuPage County and the other surrounding counties, we have on the retention ballot, the first spot, a Supreme Court Justice, Mary Jane Tice, one of our Chicago lawyers, a phenomenal lawyer who is about to become the Chief Justice of Illinois if she wins her retention. And I want to encourage everybody to vote yes for her and yes for all the other retention judges. There are no bad judges on the list of people running for retention this time. But it's at the end of the ballot and it's kind of lost, and you vote yes or no because they're not running against anybody. So just encourage people to look at it, find the Bar Association ratings, and vote the retention ballot.
Okay, and Katy Hogan did talk a little bit about the election in general and how people can be involved in the last 10 days or so. Larry, I'm going to just ask you one question before we say goodbye, and you can drive on your way. You talked about wanting to do some other things in your life. You got any big plans that you want to share, or some places you might be going?
I've made a commitment to President Preckwinkle that I will work with her to blow up the Juvenile Temporary Detention Center. And blow up, but what I mean by that is it was built in the 80s and it's built as a juvenile jail. We need to build some sites that are in the community to have some of these young juveniles who are having disciplinary problems be treated rather than incarcerated. And so that's going to be one project I'm going to work on to try to build in maybe 3 of them, one in the northern area, one in the western area, and one in the southern area of Cook County, so that we can have children closer to their homes and closer to their schooling as they go through the need for some kind of detention.
Well, Larry Suffredin, you've done a wonderful job on the Cook County Board of Commissioners, and you're a wonderful human being. I'm really glad I've gotten to know you over the last 20 plus years, and we will definitely have you back because you'll have some stuff that you will definitely want to report on.
I look forward to it, Michael, and I thank you and Katy for all the times that you have broadcast to the community the needs of people and, you know, gotten folks involved. So thank you very much for having me. All
right, brother. And let me just say to all you listeners out there and you viewers out there, you've been listening to the number 124 of Heartland at Home, AKA Live from the Heartland. We've been doing them with a Zoom, and we will do that a while longer because it takes us to places like Larry Suffredin parked on the side of Western Avenue. Next week, some of you older folks might remember a guy named John Sinclair from the White Panther Party and going to jail, and Yoko Ono trying to get him out of jail, and being involved for many, many years, putting on the Ann Arbor Blues and Jazz Festival. He's going to be with us next week, and I'm not sure who else we'll have, but it'll be good. So, with that said, we want to thank Josie Stoller, the program director over at Loyola. We want to thank all the people in our own team here, Katy Hogan, Lynn Orman Weiss, Tom Clark, Emilio Davis, and Hal James, as well as our guests, Win Noll, Katy Hogan, and Larry Suffredin. We encourage you all to do good in the world, because the world needs all the good that you do, that I do, that we do together. All power to the people. Over and out. Have a great week.